Good evening and welcome to Plain Talk. Thank you for joining me. About 1 week ago, as you probably are aware, Guyana was the center of attention of the Caribbean Court of Justice, where the two issues, in fact, came up: whether the appointment of Justice James Patterson by President David Granger in a manner that has been challenged as unilateral and autocratic was proper. That was held last Wednesday, and then the honorable judges of the Caribbean Court of Justice for the following 2 days were discussing the motion of no confidence, in which then AFC Member of Parliament Charandas Pasod voted in support of the no confidence motion and saw the government of Guyana fall. As you all know, the government at first accepted the decision, then they challenged the decision largely on the notion that in a parliament of 65, a majority has to be 34. And it's probably a good time to bring in my two guests, two academics, Mr. Patrick Ketwaru, who is a scientist. He was head of Department of Chemistry, and no stranger to this program, Dr. Troy Thomas, Director of Undergraduate Research. Yes. Perhaps I can ask you, when we were in Trinidad, you probably know, and viewers probably know, that I was one of the, I brought the clay, one of the action. People were surprised that 33 is not the majority of 65. Now, except for Mr. Sherwood Lowe, who is a prominent faculty member of the University of Guyana, who was very, very active on Facebook, there's no one in the published media from the University of Guyana that sought to engage that discussion and educate the people. Why is that? Do you support, which position you take on this matter, Troy?
But I don't know if nobody addressed it. You said in the published media, but because I made a Facebook post about it.
Well, I guess
myself.
You could say Facebook is published, but I meant the
And I think it's very clear that a majority, 33 is enough as a majority. When you examine what the Constitution says, it says a majority of all the members.
Elected members of the National Assembly, yes.
I see this, and the court will rule, the court will make its decision, so I'm not trying to say anything about that now.
I don't think you will affect the decision, don't worry.
Yeah. But, people might be sensitive about it, the court is
considered.
Yes. I think this idea about absolute majority and what's not, we don't even need that term. The Constitution does not allude to it. It's a term that somebody decided can address this situation, and based on that, you come up with a definition and a calculation and so forth. And I think we were stacking calculations on top of assumptions that were not accurate. Because if you need a majority, and a majority is anything more than half, and the way I work it out, I say 2x greater than 65. Mm-hmm. Any x that causes that to be true will suffice. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And 33 is
we actually teach this at first year chemistry, right?
Teach what?
The whole issue about rounding, which is really where the whole thing went, right?
Yes.
Now the thing is that, and these you could check it up anyway, it's standard. If you have a number, right, when you divide it by 2 and it's 0.5, right, or any number that is 0.5, there are rules to rounding. If the number...
Mathematical rules.
Yes, right. And we as scientists use it. If the number before the 0.5 is even, we round it to the even number. That is that number that in this instance.
Give us an example. Give us an
Okay,
example.
yeah, I'll use the actual example that we have here in Guyana. So our
National Assembly.
is 65, right?
That's correct, yes.
Good. And therefore, if we divide that by 2, we end up with 32.5.
Yes.
Good. So therefore, 32 is an even number, right? So therefore, the rules are that you have to round it down to that even number. If say we had,
You meant 33.5.
yeah, no,
No,
to
half
get
of
the
65,
yeah,
sorry, yeah,
when you
sorry.
round in it, right? You round it to 32,
0.5,
right?
yes.
So therefore, anything above 32 now would then become larger, right? So you would just have to add the 1 to bring it up to 33, and that would be greater than the half when you round it. The thing is now, the only way it could have been higher, right, is if you had, say, 67. Then it would have been 33 and a half. With 33 being an odd number there, the 3 being an odd number, then it would have rounded up to 34 as being the rounded number. So just the whole rounding issue was incorrect from a mathematical perspective, right? And then there's another issue where they were looking at even numbers. If we had, say, 60, it would have been 30 and 30,
Yes.
right? So therefore, for you now, and they said there are instances where you have 2, where the majority has to be 2. In that instance, if you have 30, for it to be 31, right, somebody who was within that 30 had to be removed, would have to vote for this, said that in the in the 30. So therefore, it would be 29 to 31, which will give you the difference of 2.
2, yes.
Right? So mathematically, I don't know what these guys are up to, but it's just simply a case of just trying a thing. And unfortunately, the people did not go into, and I think maybe as a university we may have erred in not
I think
coming
you're
out there.
failing your duty.
Yeah,
I
I-
really do.
But I also want to think like, why are we spending so much time on that?
Exactly.
On that calculation.
No, but seriously, this
Yeah.
this has determined one of the most fundamental rights of citizens,
Yes.
the right to choose a government,
Exactly.
Yeah.
to go to the polls. Now, we treat it flippantly, and lots of people think, look, Guyana is becoming a bit of a joke in that regard.
Yes. I agree.
But let's not forget, this was the decision by the highest resident court in the land,
Yeah.
the Court of Appeal. That's supposed to be the outside of the arrangement with the Caribbean Court of Justice.
Yeah.
That is just your highest domestic court.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a little bit unfortunate.
Yes.
Of course, the CCJ still will rule. I thought that the Chief Justice got it right. So the reversal, and I've been asking a few people, checking in every now and then to get the written ruling, because I actually want to see what is
Which
in
one
it
you want?
from the appeals court.
Mm-hmm.
I have not been able to get my hands on that, because okay, I understand that they came to the decision overturning what the Chief Justice
said.
ruled.
Yeah.
But what I've said to almost anybody who asks me about it, look, I want to read what they have there. I know what I believe, but I want to read what the appeals court, what their ruling is. But they have not. Is it available?
It is available. It is available. I'll try and get.
I've asked a few people, but
Yes, I'll try to get it to you, Troy. What they essentially said, and again, as mathematicians, they said you have to divide 65 by 2. You get 32.5. Since you can't have a vote, a half a vote, you have to make it 33.
yeah.
And then you
plus
add one.
But my whole
What's the
thing
mathematical
is, my
basis?
whole
There's
thing
no
is
basis
what
for
is
that.
that definition? What
There's-
is the definition of a majority? They're using half plus 1. There is no need to find half in order to find a majority. A majority, as I laid out,
So numbers greater.
2x greater than 65.
Yeah.
Any x that causes that to happen is a majority. I don't have to find a middle value for that to happen, and that to me is the force step that was,
So therefore,
was
33
incorrect.
would be
Any
would be,
X you put there,
yeah.
33,
Yeah.
it satisfies
Is the
it.
force X that would make it greater?
There's nothing in the
Yeah.
Constitution telling me that I have to find half and then add 1.
Nothing in the Constitution, nothing in logic,
Nothing
nothing in
mathematics.
mathematics.
So I put it on my Facebook post. I said that Parliament is set up so that the middle
Prevent
can
that
never
exact
happen.
situation.
Exactly.
We have gone and reconstructed it. Thereby, we have done the impossible, and it's no wonder the decision defies logic because we have done the impossible to achieve it.
You know, one wants to give the Chancellor acting and Court of Appeal Judge Justice Don Gregory, due respect, but it does strain. It really strains any concept, logic, maths, simple arithmetic.
Mm.
Now, University. Well, we talk about University of Guyana. Whilst all of this has been taking place, the public has been witnessing, spectator, to letters by persons from the United Kingdom, by persons from the United States. We don't know whether they've ever set foot in Guyana, but extolling the virtues of the Vice-chancellor, Ivelaw Griffith. Ivelaw Griffith was appointed by the Council of the University of Guyana 3 years ago. His tenure is coming to an end. Do you think those letters in the media extolling his greatness, that he's the best thing that has ever happened to the University of Guyana, even better than setting it up, I guess? Do you think those letters are spontaneous?
Go ahead.
I would say no. When you look at them, they tend to have the same theme. They seem to address the same issues and those kind of things. Right? And suddenly, out of the blues, just when he's at the end of his tenure, and there is some difficulty in terms of whether or not his tenure will be renewed, it's when you start getting this all the time. There were a few who were saying yes, but there wasn't this barrage that suddenly came. So I think it's orchestrated, right? I think it's not only I think it's orchestrated. So I would
But
say,
that's bad faith, isn't it?
right?
That goes to integrity.
Well, I don't know why, or I don't know if he is involved, or if it's just other people out there who believes, well, yes, we need to help our friend, because all of them would have said they know him well and they're close colleagues, they would have worked with him, and so, right? So I guess that might be the issue there, right? But then I don't think they have lived in our shoes, right, on campus. They have not met the situations that we have met, and they don't know the real situation. One of the things that I find with our Vice-chancellor is that he's claimed a number of things which would have happened during his time that really would have had their genesis before he came, right? He's used resources that were garnered by other people's actions and then utilized them to do things, which is what they're supposed to be used anyhow for,
Yeah.
and then claiming they're his, right? Let me look at it. Let me state the first thing. Let's talk about all those buildings and so that we would have put up, that most of those buildings were either capital funds from the Ministry of Education, or, which we always get every year, or they were funds that were garnered from the learning resource funds fees that Professor Opodai had implemented.
Yes.
Professor Opodai had the guts to
He was
go-
the former
Yes,
Vice-chancellor.
right. He had the guts to challenge the status quo and stand up to the government and say, hey, we need to raise fees incrementally and we need to implement this, right? Because he recognized that and we need to recognize that the subvention from the government cannot really run the university the way it should be run, right? So we have to have other sources. And one of those things, until the government and regardless which government it is, I'm not stating specifically any government that is there, will have to increase. If they don't want us to increase the fees, they will have to increase the subvention, right? And that is a given. Even if we go out there to try to find additional funds, because in the short term, they will still have to find that additional funds for us if they don't want us to increase the fees. I agree that we should also go out there and try to find other funds as a university, and we've been doing that. And I would think one of the things...
You have a deputy vice-chancellor who's responsible
Right.
for resource mobilization.
Exactly.
I think that's the position.
Yeah, peace. Right. And she's been doing a very good job at that, right? But the thing is, so what's happened is that there you are. You have funds that were accumulated and were available to be used. So our vice chancellor came in and and was able to use those funds and look good. But he wasn't responsible for the garnering of those funds. He didn't stick his neck out for those funds, right? And that's one of the things we need to recognize. So to say that he has done so many things, yes, he has done things. Things has happened, but But it's not a case that UG was ever static. UG just came out of this huge 10 million plus World Bank loan.
That's correct.
And
That's
a
correct.
lot of the things would have happened because of that also. So we need to recognize, we need to put it in context. And anyhow, we are paying him to do this anyhow, so why jump up and shout about it? You are saying that you did a good job what you were expected to do. Nonsense. It doesn't make sense. Why are you taking praise for what you're being paid? And we don't even know how much he's being paid, right? If we were to look at the rumors and look at what other places are being paid in terms vice-chancellor being paid at other universities, he may be among the better paid ones. Right.
And for a relatively small university.
Exactly.
What's your position on it?
Well, Patrick mentioned quite a few things there. If I go back to the start with the issue of the letters, I agree that we can't really know what motivated, or it can seem as if there is some sort of effort arranged to do that, to do a PR. But we can't verify that
That's
at this
right.
stage. It could be that people just spontaneously decided, look, let's do this. Because
Just
we
when
know-
he's about to
Right.
leave it.
Well, they know the situation and they
Right.
might be doing it on
Okay.
their own.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, he may be involved, but he may not be involved.
Exactly.
We can't verify
Yes, we
that.
can say that for certain.
What I would look at though is the content of the letters themselves, and the content is usually about their interaction with the vice chancellor. And while they're right for pointing that out, they got to understand that their interaction with the vice chancellor will not necessarily represent his interaction with everybody
Yes.
and the people on the ground. So for me, that's where the letters fall short. You say what your view is on this person and the interaction you've had with them and the things that would have occurred that you know about, but you can't expect that to hold for everybody. You should ask some of us as well what our experiences are. And I'm not saying that our experiences are all bad, but it's just that the letters are coming from that perspective. One of the things that and I'm going to try to tread light carefully here, but when I hear people from the diaspora speak often, it gives me this impression that we need to be saved.
Patronizing.
And
Yes,
that
condescending.
to me, that's not the way to go about it, because as Patrick pointed out, the system has things in place that can it didn't start at this point. It started and things have been rolling, and I'm sure if the current vice chancellor leaves, he would have started things that the other would inherit and so forth. So accounting for all of that, my position though is that if the VC wants to say that he has achieved this, let him say it. I don't have so much of a problem. Where I think the vice chancellor rubs people the wrong way is the amount of that type of promotion that you get.
Yes.
After a while. Self-promotion you're talking about.
That type of promotion.
By himself, yes. And in his favor.
Because
Okay, go
people
on.
start to complain after a while, and I think after a while it becomes a bit counterproductive, and that's where I would say to him, if I have to say anything on it, it's fine to put up that you have achieved this and so forth. We have to recognize that. But when people get blasted with it over and over, that's what I observe. They start to lose patience with it.
Yeah, you know, sorry, go on, Troy.
On the substantive issues of what he has achieved. Indeed, some of the things I'm aware started before, and things have been rolling along. He has done some things as well that I think are excellent. For instance, the office that I run. I believe in it, of course. I'm biased. That's concerned. There's the Office for Undergraduate Research. That's one of the initiatives. I think what I would want to look at, though, is the extent to which the initiatives have come into the substantive university structure. And any leader, you want to do things in such a way that after you leave there is an impact.
Yes.
And that's one of the things I would say, perhaps an assessment needs to be made of the extent to which these things are empowering the structure of the university versus creating new structures that are likely to be temporary and likely to really work once certain conditions are in place now, and if those change, they might not be there for the benefit of the university. And any leader needs to make such an assessment.
We talk about buildings, and I see the Subraj building.
Right.
We've got the Vice-chancellor. Now, I lecture. I know we part-timers are like stepchildren to the university. You people don't quite recognize. I've been teaching at the university for 9 years now.
Yeah.
For 9 years. In the law department, we had an issue recently where there's no washroom facility accessible. One female had to break down a door to get to use the facility. It is that bad. I don't have a problem with modernizing a university, but you must have balanced development. You can't have one place palatial by comparatively, and the next one meeting Trump's definition of our country. No, we need basic standards.
Yeah,
and the law department is filthy. You have people like me. We go there. We don't have a place to go. We have lecturers.
There's a general thing on part-time staff. Most they just go on the campus, teach, and come off. There's no way for them to meet students and those kind of things.
Look, and my head of department, I call him my friend, Justice Carl Singh. We've never had an opportunity for the entire academic year, which is coming to an end. We have not had a meeting. Now, that's the kind of housekeeping a vice-chancellor must make sure becomes standard in an organization. So yes, we have a few good buildings, but you have some real filthy conditions.
But it's more than that. I mean, you're talking about just a small aspect. Our whole occupational health and safety issue is in the toilet.
Yes,
If we have
yes.
if you were to do a proper audit of that place from an occupational health and safety, you shut that university down right tomorrow. Right, we have a lot of things. The Ministry of Labor did something a while back. We still can't get that report. I don't know if they're ashamed to give us.
But we
the
don't have a
report.
Ministry of Labor, so which one that would have been?
Which one is it?
Social cohesion?
Yeah, it might be that. Whichever. It was the same labor department.
Yes.
That's
On the same
responsible.
occupational?
Yes, they did a survey.
How do you know
about
how do you know it wasn't received and docked?
I don't know. Well, that's what I'm saying. We don't know what's happened to it, right? So and the thing is, you look at imagine after that that those two bomb scares.
Yes.
There was nothing in place now. You should see the confusion that happened there, right? There is nothing in place even now after those two bomb scares to evacuate the buildings and evacuate people properly, right? So, and the only place that ever do any safety training in terms of evacuation is our department. because as chemists we have to learn how to do that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know, so that's the only place that does that, right? And that's just one that is I remember when I was in academic board, when I was head, I had raised the issue about 2 years ago that we need to have a proper occupational health and safety section. Right now
But
they
you
have
must have a
condensed,
committee. You
they
must
have,
have-
if we don't have a committee, we have.
But that's a violation of the
I
law.
know he can get jailed for that because
Well,
it's a head.
that's a
of-
little extreme,
it's,
but
no,
yeah.
but according to the law, it's the head of the institution that can be taken to court, right? If the institution is in violation.
Now,
So,
Sorry,
before, what I wanted to say about those issues with the condition, I just want to clarify one point. Well, maybe not just one point, but I want to stick a pin to say the complaints about the conditions should not be seen as conditions created by the Vice-chancellor.
Correct.
In much the same
my
way.
point was, you want, if you're going to
Yes,
start
I'm
fixing,
coming to that.
Fix, yes,
I'm coming
sorry.
to that. So I'm just clarifying that we're not trying to say that the
must
Vice-chancellor has
have this-
created these
Right.
conditions.
But they
Yes.
should be addressed.
What we're saying is that these conditions have not been addressed sufficiently compared to certain other things. And
Exactly.
that's what people are trying
Exactly.
to say. So when they see it in the press, I hope people understand that nobody's saying the Vice-chancellor created that situation.
Yes.
What we're
Correct.
saying is that
It was
you're there
there.
at the helm to
Correct.
solve those problems. And we're not seeing enough tangible movement on that. The unions have written about water and the toilet facilities and so forth, and you were saying in your experience
Yes.
as well there.
I witnessed that.
And based on my own checking in the last 2-3 weeks in my own faculty, what the unions have said in the press is correct. I think that needs to be said, because at this point, sometimes you get the union say something and then you see a different story, and I don't know if the Vice-chancellor is unaware of what's happening on the ground or he's ill-informed, but he should, on those particular points, really take a walk around and see what people are talking
That's
about.
part of management.
Because
Yeah.
it's the unions are
Management.
I
correct.
don't think he gets his
The-
feedback
Yeah,
appropriately.
because I also saw a letter where he said we spent this much. This is in the press, so
Yes.
I'm not manufacturing anything. We spent this much on toilet facilities and water and so forth. Yes, but that does not mean it has affected our reality on the
Yes.
ground.
Mhm.
And so that's the perspective that the unions are coming from with that. And I just want to say clearly, as far as I know, the unions are correct on those issues.
Let me raise another issue, and which I thought you might mention. Lots of funds are being raised,
Mhm.
and you hear the Vice-chancellor's fund. There is absolutely no accountability. Now, I was chairman of the audit committee of the board of the University of Guyana. There was concerted effort to frustrate the work of the audit committee by the administration using its lackeys and its influence and its position, placing people. Has that situation improved? Has there been an audit of the stewardship of the Vice-chancellor of the University of Guyana?
There hasn't been an audit. I know that one was
Is that
announced.
acceptable? You're a Transparency Institute.
Yes. I know that one has been announced. The union.
But that's a statutory requirement.
Yes.
You should have to announce an audit.
It
Yes.
should be happening on a yearly
It should be
basis.
happening on an annual basis.
And it
I
has
know
never
the
happened.
unions did picketing over sometime last
Yeah,
year
I was part of that
over it,
picketing, yeah.
and one was announced. So
Mhm.
I think that's a good thing. But indeed, so much time should not have passed. It should be something done annually.
But in my case, and I'm saying this, there was deliberate effort to frustrate the work of the audit committee.
Okay.
And since 2014, I don't think there's been an audit.
some-
You would have thought that by now it would have been fixed.
Something that I found strange is that usually, and I may be incorrect, but from my perspective, from what I've gathered, and I've been there teaching at the university approximately 14 years now, and I've been fairly involved. The impression I get is that ultimately, people like the bursar and so, their renewal is based on the vice chancellor's assessment. I have never heard of a committee that does an assessment for them. Now, if you're going to have the bursar being assessed by the vice chancellor, right? And as I said, I'm saying what I understand. It may be incorrect, but if from what I see, if it's the vice chancellor does that assessment, then the vice chancellor has all control over that bursar. And you want to have that independence. Any system with this amount of money going through it and so, you need to put a system in place where offices like bursars and so should have a certain amount of autonomy from the vice chancellor, because sometimes they would have to call that would have to call the vice chancellor and say, hey, we can't make that spending and because of this reason. But from what I understand, basically the bursar takes instructions in terms of what to be
Bursar, registrar, the entire
Right.
But somebody clarified recently that according to the statutes, it's the vice chancellor that's ultimately responsible
But
for
bear
university finances.
this in mind. Bear this in mind. This council, under this vice chancellor, butchered the statute and gave almost unlimited power to the vice chancellor to do exactly as he wished and not accountable to anybody. That's a fact. So you can't say the statute allows him. No, he manipulated.
No. So what I'm coming to is that when Patrick is talking about the bursar overtaking direction, I was saying that that might be because of that
the way
dynamic.
the statute is.
So I'm not disputing what he says that there's a need for the oversight, but I was saying that it's probably as it is right now because the vice chancellor is actually ultimately responsible.
Right.
What we need is a body that scrutinizes the vice chancellor and holds him accountable.
But that's what the council is there for.
That's what the council should be doing.
But the council has been loaded and is being manipulated.
The
And
council
you've
has let us
got
down.
a chancellor, Nigel Harris, who has been nothing but a cheerleader for the vice chancellor. What contribution? We talk about the vice chancellor. What contribution do you think the chancellor has made, Nigel Harris?
I won't be able to put my finger on it.
That's just as incriminating as if you could put your finger.
I want to put a caveat to that. It might just be my own ignorance.
No, let Troy finish.
No, that's what
Oh,
I would
that's
say
it,
about the chancellor. But I want to point out that you were speaking like that because you were a former member of the council.
Yes. And I tried to get things into the right direction, and I was really ostracized.
I would say that for us on the ground, from what I would have seen, there's not much the chancellor would have done. I would say the times he was there, I think he was more facilitating whatever the vice chancellor would have wanted. And unfortunately, our pro chancellor is doing the same thing right now from what we're seeing. Right. I think our pro chancellor, based on some communications over the last week or 2 weeks, with my interaction over the last month or so with him, I think he would have lost stature in my own personal thing. Right. He would have lost a significant amount of stature. in my opinion.
When you say the pro chancellor, you mean Major General
yes,
Joseph.
he's our current
Now-
pro chancellor.
And in my understanding of the function and role of the pro-chancellor is that he is the chancellor. He functions in place of the chancellor
Yes.
when the chancellor is out of the country.
Exactly.
That's what we're talking about. And you're saying he has been mainly a facilitator. He has certainly witnessed all of these things that have happened and has been more a supporter
Yes, we would have
than
expected to
an
be
objective. And you know, Josing has a tremendous reputation in this country.
Yeah.
You would expect him to say, look, I can't be party to this. Instead, you get this situation where, and this is very troubling for anyone who understands audit, for anyone who understands management, for anyone who understands governance. If you're going to have an audit, you expect persons not to be in a position where they could affect and influence the audit.
That's standard.
Here it is. You have the Vice-chancellor, and this is incredible. The Vice-chancellor is saying, I don't want to go on leave, I want to be paid. Now, if the cleaner, if the Kong's clerk like me were to ask that, you could understand. But a Vice-chancellor?
But why do we have to pay him if he decides he wants to stay? And in any case, I think it's unethical to stay at the end of your
It's improper.
tenure. Two things. We have an audit that is supposed to be starting pretty soon, right? And the other thing is that we have to do a review of his tenure. So before we could decide what should happen, whether we should renew him, but as from what I understand is that there is basically he has a one-term contract, and then he would have to go through the process again, right? That is what I understand it is. I don't know if there are any other things, right? No one has seen the contract. It is almost as well hidden as Trump's tax returns, right? No one knows what. It's a case of where we can't even assess him properly, because it's like the reverse of the pig in the bag scenario. We know the critter, but we don't know what the critter is costing us,
Yes.
right? So we have taken home the critter, and somebody's going into our pocket and taking out how much they want to pay for that critter. That's our scenario.
We
there.
also don't know how much this situation with payment in lieu
Exactly.
of leave. We don't know how much that is
Right.
costing the
Yeah.
university.
But
as well.
it's bad industrial relations. It's bad accountability. It's just about bad. And
It should not be
on everything.
facilitated.
And it's being facilitated, as you said,
Yes.
by the persons who you would expect to know better and do better. What I
Yes.
found very strange in trying to justify the situation, Major General Joseph starts by saying, well, this is how the University of Guyana has made decisions
Oh,
in the past.
you saw the letter.
If you ever have to say, justify today's decision by yesterday, no, you're starting on the wrong footing. The other point about this, and I have a little bit of experience in some things. You do not use a round robin, which is what the Pro-Chancellor is
Exactly.
using
It's
I
on
very
a
improper.
controversial matter.
Exactly.
I essentially said this in an email to the academic community. The gravity of
Joseph
this,
really has to answer for this.
the gravity of this is too much for us to treat it this way. Also, you have people dissenting.
Exactly.
You need a meeting
And you need
for
to
those
exchange
things
that
to be
opinion.
registered.
But the thing is, they had a discussion at council before when they decided to send him off on leave. They decided
when he should take his leave, not rather than send him off.
No,
That's
right.
what
he
he
should
was
take
required
his,
to do,
right.
yes.
And but the thing is, what's happened now is that here we had a discussion where the people made a decision based on the discussion, and we're going to reverse that discussion on a round robin. It does not make sense. It is not proper.
It is highly improper.
You know.
So what I said, whether you support the VC, that's a different thing. Whether you
Yeah.
think his contract should be renewed or what, that's a different thing.
Exactly.
Let's isolate this matter. I'm not with you on that. This
is not the
can't be.
function of. Look, when you use round robin on procedural matters, Troy Thomas has been appointed, and therefore he must go on the signatory. Please indicate your
Or you
because
had
the rule said
Or
something.
you had prior discussions,
Yeah.
and now it's a follow-up to complete something.
But this business of trying to overturn decisions by devious means took place in relation to that Camp Street property when the Vice-chancellor wanted to have a Georgetown campus at a very, very expensive cost. Now, it took some courageous people to vote against that decision. And even after the vote, persons in the room sought to get a revote.
Oh wow.
That happened. And let me give you another example. And I think these are the things when we look at stewardship to justify that decision. We heard, this bank is going to take 2 floors. And guess what? That was a phantom bank. It did not exist. So, in other words, the council was being asked to spend millions and millions of dollars on fraudulent information.
What I know is that so far, nobody seems to have been able to verify the existence of that bank.
So you being trained for diplomacy. Well, you're a little bit too late because Greenwich has come back.
No, that's the bank might yet exist, but nobody has been able to
Well,
verify
I can
that.
tell you, the bank might yet exist. You check the entire register of
No, I've heard people say that
Obviously.
they've checked and they've
People
put
have-
effort in and they weren't able to locate.
my
Yeah.
friend. When it came up before us at council, we did that kind of research. The numbers were bogus. Now, here again, you talk about what has happened. Have we got financial statements for that initiative, SEBI, School of Enterprise Entrepreneurship? These things are not there. They're not being audited. So you get one set of promises and projections when you want a decision, and then you say, okay, hold on, don't bother with information to test the reliability of the basis on which the decision was made. That's not how you govern.
What I find has happened also is that we start things and we don't follow through. In that, think about the courses that the new programs we've developed and so, right? I have not seen an advertisement for new staff for these to populate these programs, right? And some of them need new staff. And we have a personnel division, and we talk about Renaissance, and we have a personnel division that behaves as though it took its mandate from the Spanish Inquisition, right? I don't know what's going
You're
on.
not in history department.
I love history. Yeah, but that is what's happening. You know, we so the thing is there's a significant disconnect with all of these things that are going on. So when you and I know putting in systems in place, because I would have set up quality management systems, you know, and those kind of things. I got DDL as ISO accredited way back when, right? And so I know this thing inside out, right? And I understand how things interconnect, right? And I don't see that connection at UG. I see significant disconnect. I remember telling VC very early in at one of his meetings with us, we need to manage change. We are not managing change. We just simply coming up with ideas, putting up the front of the ideas, and then there's no follow-up how to facilitate those things. And that is one of the biggest downfall with with VC's tenure, in my opinion.
Now, let me ask you this, because you all seem to be. I've been out of university in terms of governance for some time. What is the basis for the Vice-chancellor wanting to work through his leave period? What justification has he given the Pro-Chancellor so that the Pro-Chancellor can then take it forward?
That's a very good question, which I asked just today at the meeting of the union. I assume there must be some justification, but we don't know what those justifications are, and the Pro-Chancellor has not said to the university community. Perhaps he would have said it at the level of council, but I would like to know, because
But as you said, as Patrick said, council. What level was it taken that the Vice Chancellor should go on his leave?
It was taken
At
it was a
council.
council
At
issue.
council.
Yes.
So, council has spoken.
Yes.
yeah, well, the round robin process, that's council.
Yes, that's also council.
But that is manipulating.
So that's the whole thing there
yes,
now.
exactly. But it's very
You have
improper.
several issues come together. Some people felt that's not the correct process. Some people felt approve. Some people felt no. Some people abstain. I think you have enough conflicting issues there to call a meeting.
serious.
But
But still, why? Why
exactly.
do you? Why does he have to?
what is so critical?
So that's the thing. That's where
That
it's
he needs to be
starting
there.
to. That's where it's starting to erode, and in my view, the confidence in how council operates.
Exactly.
When this goes through like this, it causes you to step back and say, well, what just happened here? Why did
Exactly.
this? Why is it that this had to happen like this? And I think council, in my view, I don't feel like council did its job as it relates to that.
Based
particular matter.
on the letter pro-chancellor would have sent out to the community. It didn't give me the impression that he was even given a firm reason by the vice-chancellor. It just, the vice-chancellor seemed to say he just needed to be here at this period because he has certain things that he needs to, that he
But the
needs to look
pro-chancellor
after.
is not an office boy. He's not a messenger. he has a serious oversight kind of function.
One of the nagging things, if I might repeat something, and I repeat it on the basis that it was said by one of the union leaders, the president of the union. She said that at a public forum, the pro-chancellor basically declared his support for the vice-chancellor and said something to the effect that they're friends and that he's working towards renewing the contract of the vice-chancellor. So
He's become a cheerleader.
apparently that
He should
was
resign
said
then.
and that is known. I have not heard
If
it
that's
myself.
not his function,
I'm
he-
repeating what
But
my union
if he
leader
has-
said. So
right.
so that now is also eroding people's confidence
Exactly.
in the whole thing, and especially the pro-chancellor knowing everything that he knows, especially knowing that that's the position and he has made a public pronouncement on it. He should take extra care to make sure procedures are followed properly.
He should actually recruit himself from the whole process from now on, or resign, because if you can openly say that you are supporting this guy who has to go through a process.
That's not his role.
Right, he should not be involved anymore if that is the situation. You know, it's standard thing, because there you are. I remember mentioning in an email is that the pro-chancellor should take into consideration that all of these actions and comments will sully, right, any decision that we make with respect to retaining the vice-chancellor. The vice-chancellor, if he comes back, we will always question whether or not it was above the board, because all that is happening before. You know?
I don't know. Eugene, every time you think you've made one step forward,
Go back about 3 years.
Because I remember council and the academics had a very bitter relationship going back. I thought that we got the politicians out of council, basically because you had a lot of
Yes.
political appointees, and that would create a better atmosphere, a better relationship. But what I'm hearing now, it's starting to shake my confidence in, and I'm not close to the action in any way. This is, I'm far away from it, but this is what I'm hearing myself now, and it's shaking my confidence.
well, you
in-
must have
in the
heard
kind
about the
of oversight.
non-political politicians. Because some of them act more like politicians than politicians do.
I think the vice-chancellor has significant influence on members of the council, and that is dangerous. I think they should allow themselves to be independent and but
You got to review. You got to reverse a lot of the changes to
Yeah.
the statute to do that.
you know,
The statute has created. It was like our 1980 Constitution, with which the Vice Chancellor would not be particularly unfamiliar. Now the question is this:
Yes.
we've said that there have been positive developments, and if you spend $2 billion or whatever,
yes.
there must be some good coming out of it.
Yeah.
What do you see as the resolution of this current issue, where the Vice Chancellor, aided and abetted by a few others, are insisting on very improper conduct, and the more longer term issues of governance at the University of Guyana, including getting some washroom facilities for the law department, and particularly the female. Now, as I said, there was one lecturer, senior lecturer, who has to time his going to campus according to his bathroom habits.
Okay.
Now, that is almost inhuman.
Yeah.
How do we resolve these problems?
Without attempting to verify everything you just said, as it relates to the matter of the leave issue, I think
That's not me
whatever-
saying that. That's in the public domain.
No, no. So I'm saying this now. I think that whole thing that they did needs to be quashed. It needs to be done properly. You might still get the same result because the people might still vote in the same way, but you have to have a proper meeting. You have to register the concerns of all the people there. And I'm saying there might be one person who explain the situation in such a way that people realize what is happening and can change a view. When you do wrong, Robin, you don't give them that possibility.
Yes.
So that I think needs to be quashed. You need to have a proper meeting. My own leaning is towards the direction of Vice-chancellor. Go on your leave.
Exactly.
That's my own leaning.
That's the proper thing. That's their point.
But I know that council has to make that decision. So I'm not making it for them. I'm saying make the decision properly.
Well, do you have to get council to say that you're entitled to? If you're entitled to your leave, you take it. You notify.
I think.
You notify council. Look, I have so many days, and my contract comes to an end on such and such a date. Therefore, I must proceed on leave.
But we have a very bloated senior administration, what she calls a cabinet. Are you
Oh,
saying?
yes, oh,
Are
yes.
you saying now that you have no confidence in these people, that you have to be on the ground to see this thing happen? That's why so you cannot go on leave.
Remember my comment about
Yes.
to what extent you're doing things in such a way that the university can function when you're not
That's
there.
right, yeah.
That's something a leader has to take into consideration. Otherwise, I don't think you're really leading.
No, there's certain major organizations, companies in the world, firms, that you cannot get promoted unless you have trained someone to take over your job,
Yes.
right? And that the only way that happens is if you give people responsibility along the way, right? And you must have confidence. Are you saying that after 3 years you had these people working with you, and you have no confidence that they cannot hold the fort for 30 days?
Well,
Are they so incompetent? Is he saying that he would have chosen such incompetent people?
You know what I find ironic? This is a vice-chancellor who travels a lot.
Yes, and suddenly he can't
And
travel.
suddenly he can't travel.
Yeah, that's quite true. Yes, he would go for 3 weeks and disappear, and the university is running as though we don't even know we had a vice chancellor, and then suddenly he cannot go.
The reasons for the payment in lieu of leave must be very compelling.
Yes. And one recognizes that, again, I was on council at the time when, like this government did, this cabinet did, one of the first things that the university, the vice chancellor tabled the paper for very, very costly per diem and subsistence allowances. Very, very costly. Now, you should be very concerned about the lack of accountability.
Yes, but as you were saying that, it also reminded me of something that the Vice-chancellor would have raised on a few occasions. By now, maybe I'm justified in saying harping at it, which is the allowances that staff members get.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the number, but he had listed
What,
them
he thinks you get
some
too
time
much?
ago. The thing is, when you say that in Guyana, everybody knows why we get the allowances. The
Yeah.
entire public service understands that those allowances are propping up your income. That's what they're there for. And if you take them away, you don't have livable
That's right.
wages.
Right.
So I wanted to mention that because I see it coming up about every time this thing about salaries for staff
Right.
comes up, the allowances come up. If you take the allowances away, what do
But not
what do we
only
have?
that, the thing is, those allowances were there for a very long time. So it's not a case he would have created it. So anytime we get a pay increase, they become automatic, right?
Yeah.
But these were agreements that were there a long time. But what has he really given us in terms of pay increase? The larger pay increase we had was something we fought for, right? It wasn't something he just will say, oh, we're going to give you that, right? Now he gave us 3 and 4%, right? And this just simply said he's not going to make any negotiation or anything. He has actually closed the book on negotiation, and he has been. The thing is that we treated him with very, very we
Sincere
gave him
respect.
yes, and he has treated us like dirt. because he has not attempted. Every time we try to raise anything, he's always has something about what's going on and those kind. And the union has been very, very soft with him in comparison with how we would have dealt with the other. Not only, also with Professor Carrington, who was maybe, in my opinion, the best vice chancellor we had for quite a long time.
Yes.
Right? So when you look at that, we gave him a good chance to do the right thing. And to think that now about 70% at the least of the staff think that he should go, right? I am wondering why he is trying to remain. When there's such a large amount of staff, you would normally expect if the people don't want you, you're not going to stay, right? And it's not a case of just a few of us, right? I meet a lot of people on campus.
And the man could be passionate about doing this job.
Yeah, but the thing is, if everybody how will you be able to do your job properly if you don't have the real support?
You need the support of people.
You know, where people are willing to go the extra mile for you.
But I asked you about the short-term solution, right? I mean, you got this no audits for donkey years. You've got frustrating. You've got an internal audit that really is nothing. It's internal audit in name only. You've got the statutes that have been changed to facilitate autocracy. How does this impact the longer-term development of the University of Guyana at this critical juncture when we are on this cusp of this wide opening of our country?
I gotta confess that I have not pursued like the changes made to the statutes. In fact, I recently learned of something while we were in a meeting to do something that we would do, elect people to hold offices, and then I was learning something and I realized, I didn't check it out myself. So that's my fault. So I can't speak authoritatively on that. But the university needs to be audited. It needs to be audited every year. There has to be a commitment to that. I think the Vice-chancellor should go on his leave to facilitate the process. I haven't seen the reasons why he would like to stay, so I don't know how compelling they are, and I would wonder why is it that we don't know. You want to add?
We've got 1.5 minutes. Share it.
Yeah, the thing is, I from what I've been seeing, like Troy, I would not have looked in detail at the statutes, the new statutes. I was kind of surprised when I heard that they were actually fully agreed with, even though that the union had major concerns.
They were not fully agreed. I objected to a number of them.
And the thing is that I think they should have given it more time to actually let us work it out properly, because there are lots of, from what I understand, there are lots of weaknesses in it that we need to address, and on that, and the way it's built, I don't think our current vice chancellor would want to change them. So we would need to go through another struggle. We did a struggle to get changes. Unfortunately, the changes didn't go the way we wanted it. So it seems like UG is a continuous struggle.
Story of Sisyphus all over again. Gentlemen, Mr. Patrick Ketwaru, Dr. Troy Thomas, members of the full-time staff of the University of Guyana, thank you very much for appearing on Plain Talk.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you.
us.
It's been a good
You're
conversation, and we hope this situation is in fact resolved in the interests of our country, because the University of Guyana is our only national
I know.
tertiary institution, and we all have a duty to make sure it works. Operators and viewers, thank you. Good night, and I'll see you next week.